Once you have decided that you're going to use AI, the amount of time that you're able to save can be a way for you to profit in your law firm. Now, I want to talk about this very, very intentionally, but also very carefully, because there is already an ethics decision out there about this very issue. But I'm talking about moving from billable hour to flat fee. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast, where this week we are going to be talking about artificial intelligence and in particular, how you can use AI to crush chaos in your law firm. So there are a lot of things that we can talk about with AI. In fact, AI has become quite surprisingly this early adopted stalwart of the legal profession. I mean, it is actually quite jarring, the statistics on the use of AI in law firms and the fact that the legal profession, which tends to be the laggard when it comes to new technologies, we are the most conservative when it comes to doing something different, doing something new, right? We all have that stare decisis drilled into us from law school. But with AI, it's been quite different. Quite a few of us are jumping on that bandwagon, and quite importantly, we are teaching it to our teams, we are using it in our firms, and we are already starting to see massive success. So there's a whole lot of areas on AI that here at Law Firm Mentor, we have really devoted a lot of time to study, as well as to share with our communities. Last year, I did a series of CLE programs through My Law CLE that are still available for purchase online. I don't receive the proceeds from that, by the way. That's completely through My Law CLE, but it is a low-cost CLE provider where you can get a lot of high-quality information. And then there have been a lot of legal conferences where I've been asked to speak specifically on AI-related topics. So last year, I spoke at CleoCon, and we talked about really change management, but through the perspective of AI. This year, we've got ABA Tech Show coming up in April. And I also have the Association of Legal Administrators Conference coming up in May. So there are a lot of things on our docket that deal with AI, and we're talking about many different facets of it. But one of the things that I definitely wanted to make sure we covered on the podcast was how you could start to use AI in your law firm in quick, easy, subtle ways. For those of you that are a little scared about it, don't quite know what to do about it, we're going to go through a whole change management program over the course of a series that I'm building out right now for the podcast. But for today, I just wanted to get your feet wet a little bit and talk about how you can start to crush chaos in your law firm, right? So what kind of chaos am I talking about? Well, there's lots of different forms of chaos. We know that there's marketing chaos where you don't quite have a handle on who your people are, where to find them, and how to get consistent leads through the door. There is also sales chaos where you know you can sell the people who are personally referred to you, but everybody else is a crapshoot. And if you can't get them closed in the first meeting, you kind of call it a wash and move on to the next person. And then there's people chaos, right? Who are the people? How are they governed? What are they pursuing? How are they operating in your company? How do they contribute or detract from your culture, right? Lots of different forms of chaos. But today we're going to talk specifically about the 3 different ways that you can crush chaos in your business using AI. And these are the ones that it took a lot of time for me to cull through all the different examples that we have from our own company, as well as our own clients here at Law Firm Mentor. But I think I chose 3 that are going to be really beneficial for you. So the first thing, and this is something that most law firms will encounter, is that you can use AI to save time with legal research. Now, this is something that I'm actually really excited about. I was never a legal research girly when I was a practitioner, right? Legal research is kind of one of those things like cooking. Like you do it because you need it to live, not because it's fun to do. Now, as I've gotten older, I actually love to cook. So it's kind of weird. Maybe I'll go back to research and love the research. But for now, I'm thinking back on those early years where research was this tedious thing that I had to do, but it needed to be done in order to adequately and appropriately represent my clients. So I spent the time that was needed learning as much as I could. And a lot of times lawyers choose to and find ways to cut time off legal research by writing form briefs, having brief banks, right? If you're in a law firm with more than one lawyer, You share resources. Sometimes you might go into a group of lawyers and say, hey, does anybody have a brief on X? But even still, you then have to read the cases. You have to read what has been said. You have to manipulate what has been said in order to apply those facts that were in that particular scenario and that case law to your specific circumstance, right? And that takes time. Now, there's a certain amount of oversight that is always going to be required, right? When we talk about AI systems, we don't ever say treat your AI like, your most skilled litigator. You treat your AI like your first year associate, right? They do need to be supervised. They need to be managed. However, you can save a lot of time with legal research. There are a lot of tools that are on the market. And I'm not just talking about the big players like Lexis and Westlaw or Fastcase. I'm talking about a lot of smaller innovators that are getting into the marketplace, specifically in the area of legal research. And there are a lot of ways that you can use AI with legal research that lawyers tend not to think about, like bouncing ideas off of someone, right? A lot of times we just, especially as solos, right? When you become a solo practitioner, the first thing that a lot of people resist when even thinking about becoming a solo is, I don't want to be out there by myself, right? I don't want to have no one to talk to, no one to corroborate with, no one to collaborate with on my cases, no one to kind of get another eye's view. Perhaps I'm looking at this wrong. Perhaps I'm not seeing where there are holes in my argument. I need someone's help with that. Well, AI is a great tool for that. And one of the things that I think is really beneficial is when you think about bouncing ideas off of someone with legal research, the other thing that you have to think about is the fact that once you get the case law, a lot of the time that's spent with legal research is not just spent reading the cases. It's trying to get the nuances out of each case and compare them and run a filter, if you will, for the facts of your case, right? So it can be, I pulled 3 cases in my jurisdiction. They all are related to whatever it is that I am trying to assert or defend for my client. And now I have to write a brief. Well, there are some people that will just data dump the law from case 1, case 2, case 3, and then start to argue. But the more compelling briefs are often those that will reference the cases through the nuances of whatever the theme is that you are asserting in your writing, right? That is legal writing brilliance, right? That's where you start to pull together your own theory of the case through what is available through the cases that are relevant to your matter, or if you're trying to change the law, cases that you think should be overturned, right? So how do you do that? Well, once upon a time, you would have to go through and read them all and kind of pull out pros and cons and comparative analyses of each of them. And some of that you do in your mind as you read the cases, and some of that you do just by whiteboarding it, right? But the nuanced comparison that happens in your mind doesn't happen anywhere near as quickly as it happens through an AI tool generator that is specifically designed to look at those nuances, right? And the fact that there are tools on the marketplace now that can do that for you and that can help you take a case and develop a theory of the case from what is available on, in shepherdized cases and what you feed it, what information you feed it while protecting your client's confidentiality, right? Let's keep our ethics in mind here as well. The information that you can get out of these tools is just miraculous, right? The other thing I think is really important is a lot of these software tools that are available now can help you when it comes to streamlining these arguments and creation of legal briefs in the future. So you might be spending a lot of time on brief number 1, but just as you created a form brief from your legal research in the past, you can do the same thing with an AI-generated legal brief. Of course, once you have confirmed that the cases are accurate cases, that they are existing law, and you've read them, etc. But once you have done that, you have now the ability to go take the nuances from whatever it is that you have discussed in your legal research simulated tool, and you get those nuances and now you can use them in your legal writing. It can help better your best. It can help make you a more innovative thinker. It can help you see possible opportunities, kind of trends in the law that you might not have otherwise been able to see. And sometimes just having even the ability to look across jurisdictions. Not everybody is a federal practitioner, but even for our state practitioners, being able to say the trend across the country is to do X when your particular jurisdiction does Y might be a compelling argument for changing the law in your state. So depending on what your needs are, what your client's needs are, that might be very beneficial for you. Okay. And again, having that high level thinker who can read those cases in an instant compared to you who might need minutes or hours and might have to read them more than one time to be able to get it. Just the amount of time that you'd be able to save is amazing. Now, crushing chaos area number 2 for AI relates to the first one, which is once you have decided that you're going to use AI, the amount of time that you're able to save can be a way for you to profit in your law firm. Now, I want to talk about this very, very intentionally, but also very carefully, because there is already an ethics decision out there about this very issue. But I'm talking about moving from billable hour to flat fee. Now, you guys that have followed the podcast for any length of time, you know that I am platform agnostic when it comes to billing protocol. I don't believe that any one billing protocol is evil. I don't believe that there is abuse inherent in any particular platform. I think there are people that take advantage of flat fee systems, people who take advantage of billable hour systems, people who take advantage of contingency systems, and so forth, right? There's good and bad in all things. But I know a lot of lawyers who would like to be able to adopt a flat fee model because they believe that their marketplace is calling out for that and that it is a popular complaint that they hear that once they sign up a client feels like they don't want to talk to their lawyer because they don't want to run up the clock. And so missing information is inherent in the process, and flat fee avoids that for them. But from the lawyer's perspective, a lot of times they don't want flat fee because they know that if a client doesn't have any economic tie, they've written that one check is the only check they're going to write. And whether they place 1 call a month or 50 calls a month, they're going to get the same economic benefit as the law firm. The law firm owner says, I don't know that I want to do that. I don't know that I want to cull out that restriction on my clients that kind of necessitates them to be a little bit more reasonable with their communications. Also, there are kind of blended models where people will say, I'll do a flat fee on certain activity and then other activity is by the hour. Like you have a certain number of calls a month and then after that you're being charged, or a certain number of documents drafted per month and then after that it's X dollars per document or whatever. Right? That's not truly a flat fee model. It's a blended model. But there are a lot of people that are playing with these models because they are trying to respond to the marketplace. And then there are some people who are playing with these models because they want to serve a lower income client and they believe that they could build a large clientele at a lower price point if they could find a way to deliver that price point in a way that doesn't eat into their profit to the point that's not cognizable, right? Because some people are willing to be less profitable to serve people that they really want to serve, right? I might say this particular type of client, I'm only going to get a 15% profit rate versus this client over here, I'll get 25%. Over the aggregate of my law firm, I'll average 20 because, it balances out, right? And I'm willing to do that. But I'm not willing to serve the client who delivers less profit at no profit, right? I'm not willing to eat my own profit in order to serve the client. And oftentimes the clients with the least resources have the most need in a host of different ways, right? So what is the answer? Well, I don't want to say that AI is the answer, but AI can definitely help, because if you start finding ways to be more efficient in your law firm, and by efficient, I'm talking about efficiency with things like legal research that we talked about, but also efficiency with things like automating your billing processes, right? Sending out mass communications to your clients, keeping them informed about court dates, administering your legal document preparation, right? Automating document preparation and intake, right? There's so many different areas where AI is helping us to become more efficient. And to the extent that you can take and measure the total time that it takes and the total cost to your law firm to deliver that service, right? We have a whole calculator that we use here at Law Firm Mentor to help people understand what are the metrics of how money moves through your firm and how work moves through your firm. And if you have any question about that, you can always hop on the phone with one of our growth strategists here at Law Firm Mentor, either Tony or Kyle, and they can help you talk through that and actually figure out how much it costs you to deliver the legal service in your law firm. But ultimately, if you don't know these things and we help you figure these things out and then you have your number, you can say, okay, this is how much it will cost me. Here's how much profit I'd like to make. I can sell this thing for X dollars, right? Now, there's always trying and testing as with any business, right? Shout out to The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, one of my favorite books about how to A/B test your strategies as you are developing them as a new business owner so that you don't go broke on a strategy that has a missing part that you just didn't see because you didn't test it first, right? It's very important that we use every opportunity to test it out before we just go live with it. But the sooner you do that, the more you will find that you can create efficiency in your firm to get the price of delivering your service down, which allows you to either serve a lower end client or serve your existing clients at a higher margin or both. And I'm always for the both and lifestyle, not the either or lifestyle. So I would recommend both if that's what you want to do, right? But you have opportunities that AI presents to us that we are not often thinking about. All right. Number 3, third way that we can crush chaos in our law firms using AI. And it is that predictive coding in AI helps us to troubleshoot. Now, this is one that I think is a little less obvious, but I wanted to talk about it because it's one of those areas that I think can get you so many more dollars just by understanding the principle. Okay. So I want you to think about your CRM. Okay. Think about your intake system. If 1 week you are generating an average of 5 clients a week, and then all of a sudden you go down to generating 2 clients a week on average. And let's say you don't notice it right away because you're not tracking your clients every week. Not a good move, okay? Not recommended. But let's just say you are where you are, right? You're not tracking every week. You're just kind of, as clients come in, clients are coming in, money's good, you're not thinking about it, whatever. Okay? So over the course of a month, you might bring in 20 clients. Well, if all of a sudden you go from 20 clients in a month to 12 clients in a month, well, that's a big difference. It's a big swing. It's almost 50%. So you might be thinking, well, oh my goodness, like how did I lose? Actually, it's more than 50% that you lost, right? But like you might say, where did I lose my clients? What happened? And you might go to your salesperson and like really bring the hammer down and be like, hey, you're not selling the clients. And the salesperson says, I'm selling everybody who's coming through the door, but fewer people are coming through the door. So then you go to your intake person, you're saying, hey, you're scheduling fewer people who are coming through the door. And the intake person says, hey, I'm scheduling the same percentage of people I've always scheduled. There are fewer calls coming to the door. So then you go to your receptionist and say, hey, are you getting fewer people who are asking for, new client consultations? She doesn't know. Then you go to your marketers and you're like, well, hey, I'm looking at our lead flow and it seems like we have a lower lead flow here. What's going on? And they say, hey, that's not our problem. You changed the budget last month and you reduced the budget by X%. So of course you're going to generate fewer clients, right? So everybody passes the buck to a certain degree. Nobody wants to be at fault. But most importantly in this whole analysis is that you had to ask a lot of different people a lot of different questions rather than simply ask your AI tool to evaluate the data in your CRM. Now, of course, this does presuppose that you actually have data in your CRM. So this means tracking is as important as we've always said that it is. But assuming that you have it there, it will be a lot easier, a lot faster for an AI tool on the moment that you disseminate it to say, hey, I need to know what is going on, why we have fewer clients this month than last month. There are lots of different places that it could look to, right? And there are lots of different areas that could be modified that might immediately get you an increase, right? It could be anything from changing the scripting on how you're dealing with objections. Maybe you're seeing an uptick in a number of a particular type of objection, and maybe you aren't thinking about that particular type of objection because it's not one that you normally encounter, but all of a sudden you're seeing a surge of it, right? You decided to shift your avatar. This particular avatar might be more price sensitive, so you're getting more price objections. Or maybe you decided to shift your avatar, and this particular avatar does not want to physically come into an office for a consultation. They only want to do it on the phone, and they only want to do it after hours, and that's not available, right? But you didn't know that that was something that you needed to respond to as a business to make available so that you'd be able to generate clients, because you're not asking those questions. You're asking the question, hey, why are you converting fewer people? Or why are you not scheduling people? Or why are you not getting enough phone calls? And sometimes your intake people and your receptionists and your marketers and your salespeople will be fully aware of what is going on, right? And over the course of time, by the way, they also should be trained on using these AI tools so that they would similarly be able to troubleshoot these problems before they become a real problem, because you'd much rather like to see a decline in clients in week 1 than wait until the end of the month. And now all of a sudden you're like, hey, where did my clients go? Right? But these are some of the ways that you can use AI in order to crush chaos in your law firm, right? Today we have talked about specifically saving time with legal research, shifting from your billable hour to your flat fee models by virtue of having good data upon which you can set your fees, and using predictive coding in order to evaluate your CRM data so that you can get to troubleshooting your problems that much faster with that much more accuracy. All right, everyone, I'm Allison Williams. You've been listening to the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast, and I will see you on our next episode.